Hi, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Heather.
And we are going batty with a bunch of new stuff. And we thought we'd bring you along with us. So check this out.
All right, guys, so I know, like, we haven't made, that wind. We haven't made videos in a really, really long time. And there's just been a lot going on in our lives and a lot of things that we can't do because winter is 9 months long. So things like we just graduated our first child from high school, and she is now doing school online and getting a degree. We're getting ready to graduate another child. And then after that, we will graduate another one. And then we have a year, and then we'll graduate another one. So,
it's like an assembly line.
Yeah. And so...
Kate's in college.
Yeah. And we've, like... Again, wind.
So our Wyoming wind is cutting right through us because it's like...
It's blowing right up my nose. And
it's like 5 degrees or something like that. And this is one of the warmer days. So it's difficult to get outside and do stuff, but we figured out a way to get outside and do a few things to get us ready for the spring.
Yeah. And the other thing too is like the church that Kevin is the pastor at has been growing. And so there has been a lot going on with that. And so it's kind of consumed a lot of our time. And like I said, with winter being as long as it is here, gardening and stuff like that is kind of put on hold. But later I can show you, we're already starting. I'm sorry, I'm facing right towards it.
The wind hits you so hard out here that it wakes your ancestors up.
Yes.
It's that heavy of a wind.
But like I've already started my plan for my garden. We're growing some stuff for our chickens. And we got plants. So see our creeper right there?
So this is called our boneyard, and this is where
giant mess is what it is.
This is where we threw most of our leftover wood for some of the projects that we've had, and we're cleaning part of that out today because we have plans for this boneyard that quite frankly we're not 100% sure on, but we do have plans, and so we want to get it cleared out so we can start getting it ready for the spring.
I know you guys have met her before, but this is actually my dog Winnie. We lost Gina. She died of cancer, but this one is super duper attached to me. So she was out here, she got cold, she went inside, and now she's back out here again.
One thing that we've learned in Wyoming is you do need a lot of hose to get out to your garden during the summertime. One thing I haven't learned is how to keep it organized and not a big mess like this. So.
All right, so this is Dolores, my sourdough starter. We've named her because she's going to be sticking around for a while. So this was given to me by a friend of mine it was given to her by a friend of hers. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to feed her because I need to make some more sourdough. So I'm just kind of knocking it down a little bit. And like mine, you can smell it. It has that sour smell to it. It doesn't smell like bad rancid, but it smells like sourdough bread without like the whole bread part. So, now I know a lot of people will weigh stuff and, make sure it's I don't do that. I've been making it for quite a while now, and I kind of know like the consistency I want it at. And so, I'll just add flour to it and make a mess while I do it. And a little bit more. And then I'm gonna just kind of mix the flour into it a little bit. And then I'm gonna add water to it. And the consistency that I'm looking for is kind of like thick pancake batter. So, and this is warm water. All right, so I don't know if you guys can kind of see, but the consistency is still a little runny, but it's thicker, it's not. And so I've got it all mixed up. So I'm gonna let this, sorry, I keep bumping the camera. I'm gonna let this sit, and because we've just fed it, and then I will start my sourdough process.
Do you let it sit in the fridge or out here?
I let it sit on the counter. Now, if you're, that needs to be mixed up a little bit. It's got a little bit chunks of flour in it. I let it sit on the counter when I'm using it, but you can kind of, I don't know, put it to bed in the refrigerator, and it will, then you don't have to feed it every day, because if you're doing sourdough and you leave it on the counter, you have to feed it like every 12 hours. And so I'm gonna just leave it here. The house is warm. It'll start to rise. I try to scrape off the inside just because I don't want, I've never had it mold, but you know, I don't want it to do that. But so there you go. And I'm actually gonna set it kind of under the light of the stove here. It helps it have that warmth, because you know, sometimes here things can be cold. So we're just gonna set her right there and then clean up my mess. This is my new grow station, and we're gonna be adding lights as we go. This is an experiment. We are growing this for the chickens so that they have green stuff, because there is none to be found anywhere where we are. So this is my garden plan. I get the itch and I start about right after Christmas, and I start planning out everything. Now, this is actually our backyard right here on this. Our yard complete, front, back, and house, and garage and everything, is about 6,500 square feet. So that's with everything. So our backyard's not that big. Nope. But I have to plan out, I want to grow as much food as I can in the space that I have. And so I have planned out and measured out with a tape measure in our yard where I can put all of my garden beds. I do my garden plan. I always try to grow things that I know we will eat. That's my plan. And we're growing a lot of cucumbers, potatoes, carrots, tomatoes, garlic, things like that. Because that's what we use the most of. We've made some headway there. It's like, stuff was kind of big, so it's been easier to move. So tell me you're a boy mom without telling me you're a boy mom.
Is this beer
Yep.
made out of concrete, or is that a rock?
It's a rock and a sharpened stick. Have the laziest chickens in the world. They will jump up to this roost to nest, but they won't jump up to these lovely nesting boxes to lay eggs. Where do they lay them? Right there in the corner, every single time. Here's Dolores. She's like doubled in size, so we know that she's doing good. So now this is where I actually do measure by weight everything. I've been having issues because of our altitude, finding just the right amount of leavening, which is the sourdough, to put in my bread, because sometimes it'll turn out like really nice and roundy, and then sometimes it'll turn out kind of flat. But we're going to get a clean finger here, but we're going to measure out about 25 grams of Dolores there. And then we're going to add in about 350 grams of warm water. Close enough.
Off by 4 grams.
Yeah.
But we're going to let it ride.
I'm going to take my dough whisk, and I'm just going to whisk this together, kind of break it apart. Put it back on here, and we're going to do 500 grams of, I use bread flour. It seems to work the best for me. And we buy ours, big bags of it. That's, there you go.
Nice. So flour's not something you want to measure by the heart.
No, it's anywhere between 5 and 12 grams of salt. So reset that. And then I usually do about 12. Because there's nothing worse than bread that hasn't been salted. It's super gross. Tastes like communion wafers. And then now we're going to move our scale away. We're just going to mix this together. And I like this dough whisk because things don't stick to it a whole lot. It's easier to clean up. It's easier to get the sides kind of scraped down and stuff than say like a wooden spoon. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take a bowl scraper and kind of just press the rest of this stuff down in here. If I need a little more water, I can add it, but I have found that lately my dough's been a little too loose. Just kind of move it around a little bit. Just kind of push that in there because it's still, if you can tell, it's still kind of sticky, and that's what you're going for now. We're gonna just let that sit there for just a minute. Now I transfer this into like a kind of a square dish or something that has like high sides on it, because you need to be able to see like when it raises. But there's a process that happens before all of that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this, we're just gonna put it down in here. And we're gonna let this sit in a warm area for about 30 minutes. But when you're feeding your sourdough, a lot of times you'll discard, and you guys didn't see me do that part, but that can go in your compost pile. You can feed that to your chickens. Our dogs love it. You can also use it to make things out of. Like I've done brownies out of it. I have a friend that she makes pizza dough out of hers and waffles and stuff like that. So there's a whole lot of different things that you can use the discard for from your sourdough. This is the last batch of sourdough I made. This is all I have left. But as you can tell, it's not very, it didn't like puff up very much, but it does has the nice holes in it and everything. The texture of it's really great. It's just not as round as I would like it. It's been about 30 minutes. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna do what's called stretching and folding. It helps kind of to build that air up in it and, you know, kind of help the gluten to develop. You're gonna just pull it up from the sides, pull it up, and then fold it on itself. Pull it up from sides, pull it up, fold it over on itself. That, and then you're gonna see that the consistency of it is gonna start to change. It's gonna start to get looser. It's gonna start to get fluffier. I do that kind of stretch and fold anywhere between 4 to 7 times, and it's every half hour. All right, this is my sourdough proofing bowl. You don't need one of these, but I feel like it helps my sourdough raise better. And I'm putting rice flour in this because rice flour doesn't develop any more gluten. I make my own rice flour because where we live, you can't buy it at the grocery stores. You have to order it on Amazon, and it is like crazy expensive. I just put white rice in a blender. I have one of those blender cups, and it makes rice flour for me. We're going to lightly dust this, and then all right. And you can see our sourdough has doubled. It was kind of like down here. This sat overnight. It might be different for you, just depending on the warmth of your house and where you live. We're in a higher altitude. It takes a little longer. And we're gonna try not to depuff all of it, but we do need to get it out of the container. We're going to pull over the sides and kind of fold it in. We're being really gentle with this so we don't lose all of the bubbles that we created. And then try to create some tension on it. And this is where a bread knife can, not bread knife, I forget what these are called, scraper. Bench scraper can come in handy because you can help create that tension on the bottom. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take this, we're gonna turn it upside down and put it in your bowl like this so it doesn't dry out. Is I'm actually gonna stick it in a glass bowl because this basket is wicker and it has just little tiny gaps in it, but while you cold proof it in the refrigerator, it can dry out. I put it in there and then I'm gonna put plastic wrap over it. I feel like plastic wrap kind of does the best. There. All right, and then we're going to what's called cold proof it in the refrigerator. For me, it can be anywhere from 5 to 12 hours. Again, it has to do with my elevation. We are at just above 6,000 feet. But if you're at a lower elevation, it may not take as long. My cast iron Dutch oven. In my oven, I have my oven set to 500 degrees. When the oven gets up to 500 degrees, then I'm gonna take my bread dough out of the refrigerator. It's been in there about 7 hours. I have my oven at 500 degrees, and what we're gonna do is we're going to bake our bread in the Dutch oven with the lid on for 30 minutes at 500 degrees. And then for me, because of my altitude, I'm gonna turn it down to like 465, and bake it with the lid off for another 10 to 15 minutes. Now, if you're at a lower elevation than me, you probably want to bake it at like 450. We have, I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit of the rice flour on top of this so it doesn't stick to the parchment paper. So we've got parchment paper here, and what we're going to do is we're gonna take it like that, and then we're gonna flip our dough out, just like that. That nice little loaf. And then I have this here, it's spelled lame, but I've heard people pronounce it lamb. Like, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but it's used to score your bread with. So you can also use a really sharp knife. So we're just gonna cut a couple slits here to let it so it can expand. And now we're gonna use that parchment kind of like a little sling. And we're just gonna set our bread down in here. And then we grab my pot holder, put the lid on. And we're gonna let that go for 30 minutes. Our 30 minutes are up, and I'll pull that out here. We're gonna take the lid off. So that's what it looks like now. So it needs to bake a little longer. It needs to get like nice and brown and crusty. Turn the oven down to 465 and let it go for like 10 minutes. It looks like this was after 10 minutes with the lid off in the oven. Now don't cut into this. You need to let it at least cool to where it's warm. But I have to keep telling my mother and my kids, you can't eat it now. If you cut into it now, it'll get kind of gummy. But yeah, so that is my sourdough bread. All right, this video has been pretty much a 2-day process. Kevin is at work, he's leading men's Bible study night, so I am going to say goodbye to you. Make sure you like and subscribe. Leave any questions and comments down below. More updates as we go. Bye.